Jazz is the product of a restless age. An age in which the fever of war is only now beginning to abate its fury. When men and women, after their efforts in the great struggle, are still too much disturbed to be content with a tranquil existence. When freaks and stunts and sensations are the order or disorder of the day. When painters delight in portraying that which is not, and sculptors in twisting the human limbs into strange, fantastic shapes. When America is turning out her merchandise at an unprecedented speed, when aeroplanes are beating successive records, and ladies are in so great a hurry that they wear short skirts which enable them to move fast and cut off their hair to save a few precious moments of the day. When the extremes of Bolshevism and fascism are pursuing their own ways simultaneously, and the whole world is rushing helter-skelter in unknown directions.
Then in 1920, the best thing that could have happened for jazz, they passed the most idiotic law in the history of the United States, Prohibition. Well, from a handful of saloons around the country, you now have thousands and thousands of speakeasies, especially in all the major cities. I mean, at one point in New York City alone, Manhattan had 5,000 speakeasies. And in the competition, you want to bring in people, you have music. So suddenly there's work. There's tons of work for jazz musicians. Also, Prohibition is loosening up morals. It's doing exactly the opposite of what it was supposed to do. Women, for example, did not drink in saloons. They sure drank in speakeasies. So the jazz age became a kind of umbrella term for this whole loosening up, this whole lubrication thanks to a prohibition when everybody was drinking more than they should, just to defy an absolutely unenforceable law.
Women's lives were changing fast. In 1920, the 19th Amendment had guaranteed women the right to vote. More women than ever before held paying jobs.
In the 1920s, young women in particular enjoyed more freedom than young women had ever had before. Women were going to high school in increasing numbers, and many of them were graduating from high school. Women were also going to college in increasing numbers, and they were going to coeducational colleges. They were living away from their families. They were dating. They were engaged in sports activities to an extent that women had never been engaged in sports activities before. They were increasingly throwing off the restraints of an earlier generation. They wore looser clothing instead of being tightly constrained by corsets the way women had been constrained in the 19th century. They cut their hair, they went to speakeasies, they drank bathtub gin, and this is the image we have of the 1920s. We call these young women the flappers.